as I always say, it ain't nothing new under the sun, right? So, over the last few weeks, actually going on the last few months now, I've been doing a lot of different content about a lot of different things, from my own personal issues with 1199 SCI, yoo-hoo, as well as NYU Langone Tish. But a few months back, I was speaking about the PSYOP that we all know is the institution that came to be, the NAACP. And, I've asked the elders, those that came before me, what their insight was on the facts that I was able to dig up. Because, we complain about white supremacy a lot, but all I can seem to find is that there always seems to be this borderline Zionist agenda, if you will, that Black America has been pushing for a long time. We talk about since the turn of the 20th century, at least. So that being said, I wanted to share with you, I put together just a little small breakdown of the initial founders, whether it was monetary or actually boots on the ground, out there doing the dirty work, connections to one Mrs. Margaret Sanger, the godmother of eugenics. So we'll give that a quick little listen, and then we'll spin this block.
NAACP founding and ideological currents. Power behind the curtain. The NAACP 1909 was not just a grassroots spark. It was a coalition engineered with money, intellect, and access. Key financial and leadership figures: Jacob Schiff, Julius Rosenwald, Joel Elias Spingarn, Arthur B. Spingarn, Stephen Samuel Wise. Zionist and Jewish influence. Among these figures, Stephen Samuel Wise, a prominent Zionist and founder of major Jewish organizations, deeply embedded in political and activist networks. The Spingarn brothers and others operated within Jewish intellectual and philanthropic circles that overlap with Zionist thought and organizing. Result: early NAACP development sat in part within overlapping networks of Jewish philanthropy, progressive reform, and in some cases Zionist leadership. Structure of influence: Black leadership, voice and legitimacy, W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells. White reformers, access and architecture, Mary White Ovington, William English Walling. Wealthy donors, fuel and direction. Funding shaped, legal strategies, media narratives, the crisis, national expansion. Internal friction: early governance included strong white financial and administrative influence. Tensions emerged over control, agenda setting, representation. Even W.E.B. Du Bois clashed with leadership over direction and autonomy. Margaret Sanger: reform, control, and controversy. Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, key architect of the American birth control movement, moved within elite reform and intellectual circles. The Negro Project, 1939, a targeted campaign to expand birth control access in Black communities. Key features: focused specifically on Black populations in the South, relied on Black clergy and doctors to implement and legitimize the program. Connected to broader public health and population strategies. Key connection: W.E.B. Du Bois supported aspects of birth control access and engaged with these discussions. The darker ideological layer: eugenics. Sanger's worldview included support for eugenics, advocacy for limiting reproduction among those she considered unfit, a belief that population control could reshape society. What made this explosive eugenics in that era wasn't fringe. It was backed by academics, discussed in policy circles, intertwined with ideas about class, heredity, and social order. But it also carried sharp edges: the power to decide who should and shouldn't reproduce, the merging of science, policy, and social hierarchy. Overlapping worlds. While Sanger did not found the NAACP, the ecosystems overlapped. Shared reform era networks, intersections with figures like W.E.B. Du Bois, alignment in certain discussions around social planning, health, and population. Final synthesis. Picture the early 20th century reform landscape like a dense web. The NAACP emerges with Black leadership at the forefront, but supported and influenced by wealthy donors and interconnected reform networks, including figures tied to Jewish philanthropy and, in some cases, Zionist leadership. At the same time, Margaret Sanger is building a parallel movement centered on population control and reproductive policy, rooted in eugenic thinking. These worlds don't fully merge, but they brush shoulders in the same corridors of influence. Money, ideology, reform, and history here feels less like a straight line and more like a control room full of levers, each pulled by different hands, sometimes in harmony, sometimes not.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it there for right now so we can keep it short, sweet, and then after we chew on this little bit of fat, we can spin the block and maybe have a conversation because, I find it odd that we as a group, we like to complain about white supremacy, social injustices, but for some reason, when it comes to us and solely us, we don't ever seem to like to fight for the things that benefit us the most. I mean, I've already shown you where Democratic politician Miss One Barbara Jordan did a report in the 1990s, in the early 90s, around 1993. That was commissioned by then President Billy Clinton. I didn't inhale. And she told Mr. Clinton that if we don't cut immigration to 1/3 of what it is now, it will destroy the Black community, specifically Black men, which would in turn destroy the Black American family. And you know what he did with that report? He buried it. And in '96, when she died, you know what he did? The same thing old border czar Mama Kamala and old sleepy Papa Joe did a few years back. Opened the borders and flooded our communities. And the funny thing is that this time they're illegals. And we know, a lot of the nations like Venezuela being one of them, admitted to opening their prisons and telling them to go. We know these people were on a catch and release system. We saw what just happened in Florida, right? TPS, but for some reason, the NAACP tells Black Americans to go dry ice, as if we don't have our own issues in our own community to worry about, much less to be fighting for people who have no actual legal standing to be here. And then to gaslight us as if we're xenophobic or doing wrong for groups of people that tell us that they openly do not like us. They hate us. Mayete, mejora la raza. Come on, y'all. What the fuck is really going on here? This is wild to me. Like, this is the form of self-hate and weakness that you can't see what's being done to you in your face. The Haitian girl on the Wrap Up Daily, dirty Black Americans. Americans have no fucking culture. Whatever happened to fucking Dante Calio? I told y'all that dude before was a fucking plant. And we see how that turned out, right? Or Mr. Old Papa Birdsong. I said the same shit when he came out. I even showed you where he went from a rapper to a blood to a Black Panther. But for some reason, he had the same script every time. I'll put a hole in his chest, you dig? But yeah, at some point, we're going to have to read the room and start moving accordingly, because right now we are making ourselves look like a laughing stock. We cry about white supremacy and say that the white man can't call us the N-word with the hard R, but then white women lovers, or you know what? Individuals like Torre will get on God's interwebs and literally say, well, it's okay if a liberal white American calls an ICE agent or a slave catcher the N-word with the hard R because he's not there for the community. But the people that cry the most about these things don't even marry into their own groups. They all complain about white supremacy, but they go home to a white mate at night. Make that shit make sense. It's a psyop. It's all a fucking psyop. And they're playing in our face. And like I said before, when I asked one of my elders that as a child I actually looked to for guidance, I got the beat on the chest. Oh, well, I do this and I do that, little nigga. I ain't gotta prove to you that fat and me the greasy. I never asked what the fuck you did. I just wanted to know why W.E.B. Du Bois and Adam Clayton Powell gave Miss Margaret Sanger access to the community through the Negro Project. And now we see which group has the highest rate of abortion yearly. We're self-destructing from the inside and can't even see it. And we've been pushing a Zionist agenda for years. And if you don't think so, who led the push for immigration? Oh, it was during the Civil Rights Act. We did, because in 1960, in fact, 1960, we'll just say 1960, there were, maybe 35,000 Africans, immigrants in the United States of America. But they've gaslit all of you to stand by them when they go, we built this country, immigrants built this country. Wild work. But when I say something, y'all look at me as if I'm being xenophobic. Yet they're drafting up legislation for reparations for illegals, but the 40 acres and the mule outlined in the Emancipation Proclamation still can't be delivered. But the Black Caucus and everyone else is helping Ghana push to the UN for reparations for Africa. But I've even shown you where they apologize for selling the just about 388,000 Africans that came to the United States of America over a 400-year period. So again, 388,000 Africans came to the United States of America over a 400-year period, and they're about to try to make millions and millions of us pay for the few people that came here that they sold, because nobody wants to say the quiet part out loud that most of us were here already. Yeah, I'm gonna get up out of here. Realize, and transparency forces accountability. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars. Keep those heads on a swivel. Because clearly you're not paying attention to what the fuck is going on. And if you don't start soon, we're gonna be lost in the sauce. Because while they're drafting up per AOC and the prayer chick out in Illinois to fund the legals, you know what? Barbara Jordan warned y'all, and I'll just continue to be a pariah in the xenophobic FBA. And to all my peoples out there, I say this with no malice and disrespect. I really don't. But before I go, I have to say this. I hear people say things like, oh, well, they're just doing this to piss Black Americans off. But then the same people that say that get mad when we react, and we're like, well, wait a minute. Why are y'all doing this? Oh, well, no, because America's where we come to get money. Yeah, okay, listen. You have to understand that this is our home. For a lot of y'all, you come here to get money to buy land back home and go home and build houses. So you're using it as a bread basket or a teat to suck off on and rebuild your shit. But y'all are now in here. We have supported you when you run for government. But then when you get in these places, you openly say shit on hot mics. Like we've all heard before, we're not aligning with the niggers from the Hispanics or from the Somalians and Ilhan Omar's crew. Or Black people, they ain't got no morals, so we have to take the seat because they don't know who they father is. Or the Byron Donaldson, well, I'm Jamaican, my mother's Jamaican and my father's Panamanian, so I know there's a lot of Blacks that won't get that benefit, so I'm against it. But now that Ghana is pushing, everyone's going to be for it, and the actual descendants of the actual slaves that were sold are being written out of it, and then we're being called xenophobic when we call it out. And to prove to you God don't like ugly, go look what happened to Ghana right after the blatant disrespect. But yeah, it is what it is. We are the diabolical den of demons, aka the Viper's Pit. And hey, y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend, because I know that I definitely